Confucius is probably the greatest Chinese philosopher in history, and one of the most studied philosophers in human history. His work, composed of teachings and interpretations, has been passed down through generations, and has been guiding and influencing almost every aspect of Chinese society for thousands of years. It is proven that Confucius' teachings had the greatest individual impact in Chinese history, more than any other social or historical factor. Confucius was born around 550 BC in the state of Lu, located in what is now the province of Shandong. Like many Chinese of his time, Confucius had political aspirations. China was divided, both geographically and philosophically. Various states and regions competed for political and social control. Alliances were made and then broken. Wars were fought. This period, known as the Spring and Autumn and Warring States period, c. 770 to 221 BC, gave rise to many philosophical and cultural schools of thought, such as the Taoist writings of Laozi, Lao Tzu, and Zhuangzi, Xuanzi, and the different military treatises of philosophers such as Xuanzi, Sun Tzu. Confucian thought affected every aspect of Chinese life, as well as the way in which these aspects were linked to a series of rigidly structured relationships. At its core, this thought is a guide for moral values and for the appropriate social conduct. Being fair and of high moral character was the responsibility of the ruler, which in turn enabled the people to follow his example. Confucius defended the idea of reciprocity and responsible government. The paradigm of Confucian thought is that we shouldn't do to others what we dislike. Which, incidentally, is no different from the concept of karma. With this idea came the defense of the benevolent government. If the ruler or sage is simply in use of power, the people will follow him, otherwise, he will be overthrown. It is not surprising, given the social environment of the time, that rulers considered Confucius's ideas impractical in the struggle for power. There is no doubt that Confucius failed to achieve a politically important position. His life seemed like a failure, although he went out into the field attracting loyal disciples. For 14 years he traveled throughout China. Although he was welcomed with some respect by local rulers, his views, when not entirely discarded, were not taken seriously. A ruler thus equaled, for Confucius, a lost dog looking for a home. Confucianism was falsely labeled as a religion. In reality, it has configured itself as a system of thoughts and social rituals concerned with the needs of Chinese society and its social relationships. Unlike Buddhism and Taoism, Confucianism had nothing to do with the role of nature or with life after death. Historically speaking, Confucian thought contained many paradoxes, and was more or less accepted according to the Chinese dynasties in power. Confucius' teachings were also considered dangerous, and rulers feared that the people would rebel. The first emperor of China, Qin Shi Huang, even ordered the destruction of Confucian texts and the execution of scholars of the doctrine. Confucius was against tyranny and oppression. At the same time, he believed in the inviolable superiority of the ruling class. He also prescribed that the wife must be completely devoted to the husband, the son, to the father, and the student, to the teacher. Originally, these relationships outlined with clarity characteristics of superior versus inferior. However, less than focus on different classes of society, the most important elements of Confucian thought simply promote the perfection of the individual, regardless of historical contexts. In the midst of political and social uncertainty, Confucian thought prescribed that a civilization could be harmonious if governed by a system of standardized methods universally understood. For such spirit of government, Confucius defended 5 basic qualities: benevolence, probity, decorum, wisdom and honesty. Among them, benevolence was considered the cornerstone, encompassing loyalty, filial piety, tolerance and kindness. When Confucius died, around 479 BC, his ideas were not universally known and the notion of Confucian thought as a true philosophy had not taken root. His teachings were recorded and compiled by many generations of disciples and are now known as the four books, essential texts that make up the work of Confucian thought: the Analects, the Great Learning, the Doctrine of the Method and the Book of Mencius. The stories of Confucius's wisdom benefit all those who come into contact with Confucian thought for the first time. They both represent the basic philosophical foundations of Chinese society and offer deep, yet subtle, lessons for individual improvement.